Yep.
So good to have you back again, Tony.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So for all of our listeners, here we have Tony Langford again. Today, we've got a really important topic, and Tony is one absolute expert. And what we're going to talk about today is knock down and rebuild. Tony, before we get into it, I'm just going to read something from one of your pieces of literature. And you wrote down, it's as simple as renovating opposed to knock down and rebuild. Sorry, I've got that first sentence not the best, but I'll just continue. If your home is falling down around your ears, full of rot and disease, why would you renovate? It would be like putting up a flagpole in front of a condemned house. If the area you live in is good and the basic land meets your needs, then why not knock down the old one and build a new? Consciously build one. When you pack up the house before it's demolished, you throw out all that no longer serves or is broken, out of date, no longer fitting. You don't take that sort of rubbish with you. And your last sentence, Tony, is, so why not do the same with your relationship? That's so powerful and impactful. And I'm so glad I had the opportunity to find that in your writings. And it's so true. Knock down and rebuild. What can you tell me about this, Tony?
Well, I suppose it comes from 15 years of doing this work with couples. And I realized that a lot of people say, we love each other, and love is never enough. It's like saying, well, the hot water system in the house still works, so we'll just keep the house, even though the roof leaks. And it's about looking at, is your relationship worth saving? Is that infrastructure that, the shared moral value ethics, that moral compass, the shared vision of what a relationship looks like. And so love is not just enough, and staying together, as we know, for the children is one of the worst things you can do. So it's about looking at, I suppose if you take one step back, there's always damage done in a relationship. We use words as weapons, not as gifts. And so there's a lot of water under the bridge, and we have to look at, what does the individual need to get past that pain? What do they need to let go of, all the things that they perceive was done to them in arguments, whether it's because normally a relationship falls apart because of lack of trust, whether it's infidelity, lack of support, unable to rely on the other person, and whether it's real or perceived, it doesn't really matter. Whatever the person is feeling is what they're feeling.
And communication.
Yeah. So it's about, okay, what are they prepared to do to let go of the past? And some people go, yeah, but. And as soon as you put a but, it means you negate, you actually wipe out everything that was said previously. So it's about finding out what they need to hear from their partner, what new experience they need to have of their partner that will help to grow the trust, because trust is never about the other person. It's always about the person that was done wrong by. And it's about, well, if they do this to me again, will I ever get over it? So it's almost a self-preservation. Well, if I keep punishing them, I'm keeping them at arm's length, so I don't have to become vulnerable. So
protecting yourself.
Yeah. And so, if you're prepared to make yourself vulnerable and, try one more time or try again in the relationship, you have to leave everything behind. I hate it when people go, I just want to go back to where we were, because where you were got you where you are.
So, and that's also gone and buried now.
About, well, it's not buried, and pain doesn't decompose just because you bury it. Oh, I'm not going to talk about it. It doesn't stop you not thinking about it.
And I mean buried in the sense that that's finished. You can let that go, not burying it on the inside and waiting for an explosion of emotions. That's where we need to help our clients.
And the thing is, we can't help our client unless they know what they want or what they need to let go of it. And normally it's about, they don't feel or believe the other person understands how hurtful whatever it was for them. So until the other person can demonstrate, and that's why, you know, traditionally people will keep punishing the other person because they're still hurting. So why shouldn't the other person hurt? And it's not a conscious thing most of the time. It's a very subconscious or unconscious thing. And so it's about going, okay, you know, what you need to let go. And so you step back and you go, okay, do you want to work on this? What are you prepared? There's I'll just get my diary. There's these 3 things that I've written down that I like to say to my clients. And this is the jump off point. It's the first one is, how much do you want to fix this or rebuild this? What are you prepared to do? And the final one, which is really, really, really important, and this is where we come into arguments. What are you willing to stop trying to convert the other person to your way of thinking? So, you know, if someone's had an emotional affair, then the person that didn't is like, has to find a way to forgive the other person, figure out what they need to hear from that person, and then let it go. When they've got that, whatever that subjective thing is, okay, are you willing to let go? And if they're not, then I've actually called quits on maybe a dozen marriages. And I mean, I've told them to go to see solicitors because one of them is not able to let go. If they're able to let go, the first thing I do with them, and it's sort of homework, is they have to figure out what they're not going to bring to this new marriage, this new home. You know, so, you know, if someone's needy and their partner's always saying you're needy, well, it's like, well, maybe that's something I've got to work within myself and a therapist or someone that they trust to let go of that neediness. What is it that is causing them to bring dysfunction? So I think I mentioned it last time that I see there's one partner, there's the other partner, and they put into a third entity, which is the relationship. So what you put in there is what you get out. So if you're putting all these expectations that this partner of yours is going to be everything to you, well, it's set up for fail. You know, our sense of self and our identity and happiness comes from inside out. We have to make ourselves happy, not our relationship. Our relationship can enhance that. We can get happiness from it. However, we still have to have a base of contentment, happiness, peace and calm and self-worth within ourselves.
Yeah, so I'll stop you at that point. The important thing there is, which I find thank you for saying it, it's really important that when 2 people are in a relationship, and they get lost amongst blame, and you did this, and I remember that, and that hurt me. They come to us. So we've got to then minimize. We don't have to hear the whole drama story. We can respect that, and they can respect that they've got their story. But what is it that you bring to the table? And then we got to clean it up, because their conversations bring in mess. Because their life is a mess, and I really sympathize with that. But how is it that we get them on a clear path for therapy? Do we get them to write down what their pain points are and what their goals are, and then we decide what we're going to work on individually and together, and what we're going to let go of? Because it's knock down, rebuild. We don't want to renovate. If they've been renovating their relationship year after year, and they realize that the paint just gets old really fast, and that the hot water system does have to get replaced, what is it? We knock down, we let it go, and we're going to rebuild.
So, you know, there's lots of different ways, but there's always got to be a sort of, I honestly believe there's got to be a funeral, so to speak. So whatever, there's got to be letters written, not for publication or giving to the other person, all the things they want to let go of that the other person has done to them, all the stuff they contributed, all the stuff that caused the, you know, the dry rot and the asbestos and all that. All those sorts of things, they put them down on paper. And then I'm really big on things like if they own their own property, then buy a plant, like a plant they both like, a tree or whatever, and you can get both letters, tear them up, stick them in the dirt, put the plant on top, and then what happens is that paper is decomposable. So if you think about it, the shit the pollution that was on those letters is going to feed the plant. And then that grows the plant. The other way is to do the same, but burn it and have a cremation. And you can put the ashes, you know, under a tree or just let it go in the wind. But there has to be a point where everything from the past in the negative sense is let go of. And if people can't, and it is a really hard thing for people to do if they've been hurt by their one and only. So I think it's,
creating a symbolic ritual like that they
it's
agree on, then it's not flexible. We agree that we're going to use these letters as manure to help grow something brand new, or we're using these letters, and they don't need to read each other's letters.
No, I prefer they don't.
And I think I know which letters you're talking about. Is the 6 letters?
Well, there's the Shirley Smith letters from the Set Yourself Free. However, there's also just, you know, if there isn't anything that's really happened in a relationship other than they've sort of separated, like, you know, they've you know, moved away, or they've just drifted apart because of children and all that sort of stuff, then it's about, well, you both contributed to the drift of that relationship. It's no point blaming, you know, the other person, because even if you only put 1% in, that's still contribution. And I don't believe in saying it's your fault. I say, I don't care if you contributed 99% and you contributed 1. It takes 2 hands to clap, and you both have contributed to driving this relationship into the gutter.
And those letters, I have to say, you introduced me to these years ago. Yeah. And gee, they are effective because they are true to what you told me. Letting go of a relationship, it doesn't mean you break up. It could be a part of a relationship.
It's the dynamic of a relationship. It's letting go of the dysfunction. So it can be with a loved one, a partner, a friend, an ex, someone that's passed away.
Yeah.
And it's a very powerful thing, because that first letter that we talked about, that Shirley Smith talks about, is hatred and anger, which is such a volatile and icky-perky type emotion, that it's very cathartic to be able to just vomit that out onto the paper. And because, you know, it's hard to admit that you absolutely despise and hate someone, even though you can love them, because it's a very fine line.
I like to tell couples that bear with the first couple of letters, because the feedback that I've received is, I've wanted to give up, but I reinforce from the very first day. It's a 6-day plan. You stick to the plan, and the very first couple of letters are extremely difficult and cause a lot of pain, but it's so therapeutic that by the end of the 6 days, it's knock down and rebuild.
Once. I'm one of these people that if I'm going to do it, I'm just going to feel that discomfort ongoing. So it's like pull the Band-Aid off, and I tell my clients, I would suggest, it's only a recommendation, that you clear the house and you have a big jug of water, you have some lollies, a lot of tissues and lots of paper, and you just go for it. And you do the first letter, draw a line, second letter, draw a line, all through the 6 letters of, you know, anger and hatred, hurt and pain, what you've contributed, what you got out of it, and then gratitude. And
I do it differently. I do it 1 per day, because I do want them to sit with that and see what gets processed and then unprocessed for the whole 24 hours. I just need the commitment and the consistency from them. So that's my suggestion, but I guess anything can work for anybody.
Anyway, it's that. And if you think about it as a physical energy, because as you know, we're all made up of energy. When we let, like that first letter of anger and hatred, when we let go of that, that's quite a big space to fill. And you can feel a bit empty and unbalanced after it, because it's like those snow dome things you get and you shake. All those little, you do something like this and all the little flakes have to settle. And so when I'm working with couples in that knockdown rebuild context, it's about no alcohol, because alcohol is a depressant, and it makes you more sensitive, and we can misinterpret what's being said. So, you know, no alcohol, be kind to each other. If you can't say something nice, keep your mouth shut. And let the process happen. And And it's quite interesting. Once they've done that ritual, and which is very painful, it's very painful to actually admit, well, I'm to blame here too. It wasn't all him or her. Once you can take responsibility and go, okay, I don't want that in my life anymore. I want that person, but I don't want the dynamics. Then you can start looking at building a new relationship. And it starts off with dating. It starts off with little, and I hate big grand gestures. I like things like, pizza in front, out in the backyard, or playing Uno, or, listening to music. Having dates is about time, not money. And, with COVID and also just the financial stress we're all under, COVID or no COVID, I think when we make those reconnections really easy, grabbing a chicken, as I say, dead bird, bread rolls and limp salad, go down to the beach and have a picnic.
And even you can always reconnect with their happy memories that they've had with each other by saying, what memories do you have that you would love to relive? And when they give you 5 examples, that's what I like to work with when it comes to couples, because the conversation can be manipulated, changed, reinterpreted. So once we get, our role is, yep, sure, they write down their stuff, but you and I, our role is, let's put that on the board so that, okay, well, you said these are the memories you'd like to revisit, and both parties get to write down what it is. And you find that they're the most simplest, cost nothing. Could be picnics, it could be going for a drive, it could be watching a movie. And so we reconnect using the same thing. However, what I like them to become aware, what do you do differently now than when you used to watch a movie before? Oh, now I try, I have the kids, or I try to bath the kids.
Devices.
So you see, devices. Very well said. Yeah, of course. So then we say, well, what do we need to change that you're doing today so that it could be similar to before? So it could be a new relationship again, knock down, rebuild.
But the thing is, this is actually about building a whole new one. So, if you, as you know, as a woman in business, your phone is your lifeline with your business. However, I get clients contact me on a weekend. I don't reply to them. If anybody contacts me other than a few after 7 p.m. or before 9 a.m., I see the calls and texts come in, but I don't answer them. So it's about setting a boundary. If for me, a device is there for work and contact, you shouldn't be having an affair with your device. You should be having an affair with your partner. So it's about, if there's only one way that people can contact you. If something goes wrong with a family member, the police will knock on your door. So you don't need to be going, oh, it's the phone, I've got to answer the phone. So doing it, what would an ideal, and doing a vision board, what would an ideal relationship look like for you, and not have it set in stone. And I think this is where a lot of couples go wrong, where, he may say, well, I want to be able to play golf, more often. And he might get to play golf once a month, and he'd like to play golf twice a month. And she sees it, oh, here we go, he's off again. Or she may say, I'd like to have a massage every so often. And he goes, oh, here we go, she's spending money we don't have. Just because someone says, I'd like this, doesn't mean it's chiseled in stone. And so it's about going, okay, how can we work that in? Because I think, we talk about relationship, the C word, commitment. I think it's more about compromise. Every relationship that succeeds has compromise from both people.
And flexibility.
And sometimes it'll be 90%, and sometimes 10, and sometimes 100 and none. So it's that when people get to that tit for tat, well, you always do this, I never, then we're back in the past again.
Yeah.
So it's about looking at what you expect from a relationship, what you want to put into the relationship, what you want out of the relationship, what you expect from your partner, and then having a negotiation about it. And some people find that really difficult, especially women, being able to say what they want because of fear of rejection. And it's really sad that women traditionally have a lot of difficulty to be able to say, well, you know, I'd rather us eat dinner at the dinner table because he likes to watch the news. Well, he can watch the 7 o'clock news on the ABC or the 5 o'clock news on Channel 10, and you can still have dinner, or he can watch it online. You know what I mean? Like there's, and you only need the 5 minutes at the beginning and the 5 minutes at the end of the news. The rest of the time you don't need it.
I like your model for knockdown rebuild, so I'm going to go back there. How about you get your clients, which you probably do, but because you're the master of knockdown rebuild, I like it, you get them to say what they did to rot their house.
Yes.
What did they contribute to make it down? Okay, yeah, well, let's say we do the vision board, because the letter is also emotional and expressive. But if they were to do those after the letters, because then they experience
well, you've cleared the space out. You've knocked down, you've demolished, everything's gone off the land. Well, now we've got to get a plan of what they need. They need a 5-bedroom, 4-bedroom, 1-bedroom, 2-story, 1-story, cave. What is it?
Okay, but if they had a leak in their house, when they rebuild, they have to do better waterproofing. So what was the leak? If the leak was nagging, then you say, okay, when you rebuild, what are we going to do so that we can waterproof this nagging? And the nagging is, I don't know who's doing the nagging, the women, the husband, the women, whichever, however, whoever's together. But the person that does the nagging is the person that needs to work on that. They claim that.
So I'll give you an example, right? I'm working with a couple that have been together 14 years, and he's very sporty, and he does endurance-y type stuff, sports. So, and it's not her gig, so that's all right. But before COVID, he spent a lot of time doing these sports, and so she felt quite disconnected. So, and she said, all I want, and I had the two of them in, all I want is that he spends as much effort organising stuff for us as what he does for himself. So, you know, they were doing that, and off they went. And then, and he's on, his job is being shut down from COVID. And so he wasn't working. So she said it was fantastic. She was working from home, but he would make dinner, and it was like they were dating again because he loved to cook. He's now got a job again, and he's out all 5 days a week. And instead of her saying to him, I'm feeling like we've slipped, because it was dysfunctional, really good, and then they're back to dysfunctional. And she didn't say anything to him. She's just like, you know, crossed her arms and gone, well, if he hasn't felt it, why should I do anything about it? Well, you both contribute, and the minute you start feeling disconnected from your partner, it's about going, okay, hey, Fred, I feel disconnected. What's happening here? So I'm now working with them again about owning their own feelings and saying, hey, you know, I'm feeling, because he felt it, but he just thought, well, what can I do about it? And unfortunately, you know, women have a tendency of doing a lot of the heavy lifting in a relationship as far as the emotional side. And if you need more connection with your partner, then you need to tell them that. So the other weekend, he went away, and which she was happy about, and he was posting photos up on Facebook. And then he rang her on the way home. I texted her on the way home 3 times to say, I'm going to be late. Oh, I'm going to be later. Oh, I'm going to be even later. And it was only because of traffic and all this sort of stuff. He got home and she gave him the cold shoulder, and he didn't know what was wrong. So, you know, then a couple of days later, after she stopped sulking, she said, well, you know, you've posted all this stuff on Facebook, but you didn't bother contacting me. And when he told me this, he said, now I'm being micromanaged by my wife, you know, I can't even do anything right. And I said, well, think about it. And I actually had to get him, because he thought, shit, I'm going to have to work on it. And my belief structure is that there's only 2 relationships you have to work on your whole life. The one with yourself, which is your primary, and the one with your partner, which is your second. Just because you landed the fish doesn't mean you don't have to keep maintaining it. And a lot of men have this belief that I caught the fish, I landed it, I'm right. And so it's
some women feel the same as well.
Yeah, I know. I'm just using this couple as an example. So he now realizes that if he goes, doing his rock caving things or whatever it is he's going to do next, before he posts them, he gives her a quick ring and go, hey, sweetheart, how you doing? I'm just about to post some photos. I'd love to hear what you think. I'll talk to you tomorrow. 90 seconds, two happy people. How hard is that? Is that hard work? If that's hard work, then there's not a knockdown rebuild, because you cannot be who you were back then and expect a new relationship. You can't get rotten meat and moldy vegetables and put them together and make a healthy meal. And same with beautiful off the hoof, Wagyu beef and moldy asparagus, again, unhealthy. So if both people, I sort of have this little vision in my head that, when a relationship is knockdown rebuild, if you want this to go forward, you have to jump off that cliff, whether the other person jumps off or not, because you bring yourself to all relationships. If you don't fix you, you're going to end up in the same relationship again and again and again and again. And there's your patterns. So you've got to want to jump off that cliff, and because you want to change. You don't want to be the person that was, nagging or needy or, clingy or rude or independent or disruptive, whatever those things. You've got to look at what you bring. And if your children and your friends and you are a bit, full on, Tony, it's like, okay, that's me. If I'm getting that message that I'm full on, well, okay, I'm full on. So what's happening with me? Is my diet out? Have I got this belief that, well, everybody's just got to put up with me? That's not respectful to other people. So it's really big, deep digging into self, that mirror up to yourself, which is what counselling's about, and being able to go, well, this is what I want. As I said before, what are you prepared to do to fix this? And it has to be fix this, not fix that.
Let's talk about self-care for a minute. See how important it is when our clients come in, our couples, and we ask them, what are you doing for self-care? Because when there is a lack of self-care, there's attack and blame. So it once they get their sleep a priority, their nutrition improved, even water intake, or less of alcohol or any other substance, the way they speak to themselves, a bit of vitamin D, or a little bit of exercise, time to themselves. All of this is self-care, makes them happier, less resentful, and much more pleasant to be with one another. So self-care, I think, is a very big part of the management plan when we rebuild.
But it's also too, you've got to realise, and I don't think people understand this, that we are all Visa debit cards, right? We can't help anybody else if we're depleted. We have to fill ourselves up, and whatever that is, whether it's yoga, going to the gym, giving yourself permission to sleep in on a Saturday night, or giving yourself a Saturday morning, or giving yourself permission to have half a block of chocolate, but do it with respect and no judgment. It's about being kind to yourself, treating yourself like you would your BFF or your daughter or your son, and then going, well, I'm feeling down. This is what I need, or I just want to have a bath. Everybody leave the house. Here's $50. Go down the park and get some fish and chips. I want the house for an hour. And giving yourself whatever it is, and everybody's very individual. I'm very much about, as a therapist, because everybody comes, as you know, they spit their cooties on us, metaphorically speaking. We get energy and emotions thrown at us. A nice bath with Epsom salts, bicarb, and a tin of Coles coconut cream.
In the bath.
In the bath. And the cream doesn't go slimy, and it doesn't make a scum on the bath. But bicarb and Epsom salts, or magnesium, are very drying. They're drawing. They're drawing, they're not herbs, minerals. So the coconut, and my skin gets really itchy. So I decided to put coconut cream in once. And the coconut cream for Coles is only 99 cents. So it's the cheapest one I can find. and you just have a bath in that, and it helps to take the emotional baggage that gets stuck to you, especially in a family or as therapists as we are. And I do that every week. Even in summer, it's a cold bath, but in winter, a hot bath. And I think we need to find, whether it's walking on the beach, sitting down. It's about reconnecting with self. It's not about being with other people. It's about almost like that internalizing of going, okay, what am I feeling? What do I need? What don't I need? Some people never know what they need. They know what they don't need. So go, I don't need this. I don't need this. Okay, what's left? Okay, I'll use what's left as a context. But it's very individual. You know, what's your self-care? You love running. So that's got to be one of yours.
Yeah, running for me, it's just my happy place. And I hear so many people say, oh, you know, that marathon was such a hard run. It was cold, it was gloomy, it was hilly. And I always think, I didn't do that run. I ran something different. The sun was shining and my music was playing, and yeah, that's my self-care. I love it. But I wouldn't do it if I loved it, if I didn't like it.
And it's the same with the horses. You know, I was out walking with a friend the other day, and it was Sunday, and it was really windy, and the wind was blowing past, and I laughed, and I went, this is like when I'm out on Big Boy, you know, I can show you a photo of Big Boy. So there's me and Big Boy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was asleep in the paddock one day, so I went out and gave him a cuddle. But, you know, and those windy days, and you're galloping along and the wind is blowing in your ears, and it's shh, and it's like, oh, that's when you feel peace and calm. And yeah, so it's about finding that self-care. And for men, that might be having a drink at the pub. It may be having a round of golf. It may be watching the footy. It doesn't matter what it is. If it puts currency, emotional currency back in, then you're available to your family, and then your friends, and then your clients, so on. But if you're depleted, you become reactive. So if you've got currency, emotional currency, you can be proactive about how you manage your stress levels. If you're depleted, then you become reactive. You go to the crocodile brain and you flight, fight, freeze. Very interesting and very simple. So does that answer your question about how we start that knockdown, rebuild context?
Absolutely. I think we can talk about that for 500,000 hours, and we can renovate the whole house before we knock that down and rebuild it. And that's why I think it's nice that our couples, our families can choose brand new bricks, brand new doors, brand new design.
Windows, air conditioning, gas heating, the works.
And still bring their favourites with them into the new
you're
room.
Still bringing your favourite clothes and your beautiful leather lounge and your fuzzy slippers. But
I think what becomes really important, I find, especially when of course, some couples come so that they can break up, and we do that, and we make sure we do that nicely. And some couples come so that they can stay together, and we do that as nice as we can as well. They come with history. Now, the relationship that they have to their past is often what's killing them. And so we work on how and personal strategies that's going to help them detach from the emotional relationship to it, because that causes anger or jealousy or rage or mistrust, all of that stuff. And then with the letter writing, which sounds good, and with our visual board, which is like, okay, where to from here? We make a plan, like an architectural plan. What's going to go in their house? How much of this do we need? How much of that do we need? What shall we get rid of? What can we afford to do? And when we build our new relationship or our new home,
it's got to be very specific though, Amanda. Very, very specific. Because if someone says, I want my partner to support me, well, what does that mean? Or be more supportive. Okay, what does support look like to you? You know,
I can write that down. That can go on the plan.
Financial? Does that mean I want him to listen to me for every night after dinner? I'd like him to give me half an hour of undivided attention so I could just have a debrief. You know, it's got to be very specific. If you say, it's like, as I said last week about the metaphor of, I want a car. Well, what do you want to use a car for? Oh, I just want a car. But what colour? What size? You know, so it's really important that you get down to the nitty gritty.
And that's our
and
job.
That everyone is different.
And our job is to say, okay, because they often give us the globalization language, and we say, okay, so let's be specific. And what does that mean for you? Because we can't expect their partner to interpret or perceive it exactly how they are delivering it or what it means for them. So this communication is what becomes, just like when we're rebuilding a home or building a brand new home, everybody needs to communicate. The window guy and the plumber and the electrician, absolutely everyone has to know, otherwise they put PowerPoints in the wrong places. Yeah. So, okay, so I think what the takeaway message is today is that, sure, knock down, rebuild. If you can't do it alone, you go to a proper therapist who's got the expertise to help you, not to tell you what to do, but to help guide you. But there's certain criteria that need to be met so that this can be done safely, because usually you only want to rebuild your home once.
Yeah. And you've got to put that context of, as us as therapists, this is how I always imagine the way I work with people is, if I'm in that knockdown rebuild, I'm the architect and I've got this table full of all different ideas. They individually pick up what every little bit, no, I don't like that, but I like that, or I like that, but I'd rather it round. And I'm the one that has all the information, and they cherry pick. You were talking about something before, and I imagined all these cleaning products on the table, like, you know, green ones and, you know, really strong ones and different sorts of gloves, and they get to pick. You know, it's not our job to make them change their minds or do this. Our job is to provide them with options. So, you know, and so, like, we're almost the person at McDonald's. Would you like fries with that?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
we see the things, it's like, okay, well, you want this, but, you know, you're talking about having a holiday once a year and doing this and doing that. Well, how does that work? Where do you get that money? So it's not pipe dream. It's very logical. It's emotional, but it's non-emotive. And so it's about being very logical and planning and, okay, well, how do you know, we're here, you want to get to there. What steps do we need? And that's where an architect, like a counselling architect, we help with the steps that get them to where they want to be. And they might want to be straight away, the men will go, okay, how do we get there? It's like, we're not doing a marathon, we're starting. Little things, little and often, and they're sustainable. And then the trust comes back, and then, you know, that dating starts, and then they start liking each other, and then there's a chemistry and some physical connection, and then the love comes back, and then they start planning trips and futures and all that sort of stuff. And it's very organic, and it goes at their pace, and they're only as good as the homework they do.
Well said. Well, I guess that's knock down and rebuild in a nutshell. So to all of our listeners, if you wanted to get in touch to learn more, you can contact Tony Langford Counselling through her website, TLC Counselling.
Or it's tlcounselling.com.au.
tlcounselling.com.au. So it's TLC because it's Tony Langford C for counselling.com.au, or Amanda Dunas at Positive Thinking Clinic. So Tony, thank you so much. You've been just awesome today. I'll see you next time. We'll think of a brand new topic for our listeners.
Oh, I've got so many topics I could keep going for days.
All right, bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you.